riding on some grown man knees. We step into some grown man knees. Conversation on some grown man knees. Put your hands up on some grown man knees. We puffing on some grown man knees. We sipping on some grown man knees. We vibing on some grown man knees. We loving on some grown man knees. I know, you know, that you're down with me.
Oh, call me in here vibing. Call me in here hair bopping. It is Tuesday night, all right? You know what time it is. If you're watching us, it is time for Grown Man Conversations. The visual podcast, 9 p.m. is when it goes down. Shouts out to Silver Shield Security as we get ready to give you another informative, high-energy episode of information, all right, and good energy. I am one half of the hosting team that will make me a co-host, and I go by the name of Tony. Give me some applause. Give me some applause, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Young lady?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. You know, I know how to multitask. Women are multitaskers. But I'm the other half
Women
of this.
are multitaskers.
Yeah, we are.
You just have to
Throw that in there.
right. Go ahead.
I'm the other half of this co-hosting team, and I go by the name of Y Square. And many others, but I'm just going to say Y Square for right now.
Yeah, good. Don't multitask your name.
Yes.
All right. And tonight we have a serious topic that a lot of times, like on last week when we did mental health, this is a part of it.
Right.
Something else that generally gets swept up under the rug in our community, and we definitely are the last ones who want to express ourselves and talk about this, and especially when you have a feel-good story like we have tonight. Tonight is Hallmark Radio, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Hallmark,
the Hallmark music
visual podcast
so
on
funny.
here tonight. And Yolanda, she's been on before when we had a group.
Yes.
So people might be looking and be like, wait a minute, what's on there before? So would you like to do the honors and introduce the sister that we have on the show tonight once you finish multitasking?
Introduce my sister from another mister. So in the studios with us tonight, we have Miss Melody Gross. Yes. And she is the owner and operator of Courageous Shift. And she is also a domestic violence survivor. She is also an activist and a mover and shaker here in the city of Charlotte. So definitely glad of having her on the show.
I love that sound. Thank you.
Yes. You got to get the ball.
I got you.
Yes.
So ladies first.
Oh, yeah, ladies
when you have a ladies guest, ladies are first. So you start off.
Okay, I sure want to start this thing off.
All right, you start this thing off right.
Yeah. Well, as Tom mentioned earlier, as we were starting the show, is Senator, last, when we were on 2 weeks ago, we spoke about mental health. Yeah. And a part of what goes into that mental health and what people deal with is the violent side of things. And so now we're tapping into domestic violence. Yeah. And you are definitely, I would say, an expert in this field because you've actually been through it. So why don't we just kind of go on into and giving us a little bit about your story and who you are. And then I'd love to shift into what started Courageous Shift.
Absolutely.
And then how people can get involved and connected with that.
Word.
Okay.
That was good, right?
You like that segue baby.
Pull that right in. Got me tuned in.
Tune in, boo.
So first of all, thank you all for having me. And the interesting thing about having me on here and we're talking about this is that when I was first working with you all in my PR days, is when I met the person who caused the trauma, right? Wow. And so, looking back, when I, re-engage with people from that period of time, I see how different I was, right, from that period to now. But I would say that, like, my experience with domestic violence started at a young age. I grew up in a household that had domestic violence. Either the women were victims or some of the men were perpetrators. And so at an early age, I felt like it was ingrained in me that, like, certain aspects of relationships were normalized, right? So yelling, cursing, arguing, fussing, fighting to the extreme was normalized. Even though as a kid, I would tell myself, like, that would never happen to me. Like, I remember saying that to myself. But if you don't have the conversations around healthy relationships, if you're never taught that, then you can say things, but if you don't have anything to say, well, I don't want to accept this, but I'll accept this, right? Then you find yourself in a situation. And I think people have this misconception that it immediately goes to violence, right? Like, it immediately goes to the physical, but it's very strategic. It's very just like insidious, really, because it happens over time gradually. It starts first with, like, just disagreeing, right? Or challenging, and then, like, arguing, and then, like, name calling. Like, it's very progressive. And I think people misunderstand, like, why a person gets into the situation. I'm college educated, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right? It does not matter if we have not been taught healthy relationships, and that domestic violence is reinforced in our community. It's reinforced in so many different ways. And so if we're not having conversations about how in the Black community it's happening, then we're going to constantly have this problem.
Right.
See, why do you think, especially in our community, why do you think that we don't talk about it more?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of reasons why we don't talk about it. For one, there's shame around it, right?
Right.
We don't understand it, so there's shame around it. We shame the victims who are experiencing it, right? I also think that violence in general is seen as this, it's rewarded. Like, if you're more aggressive, if you're more rough, if you're this, you're rewarded. Right. You're rewarded with careers, you're rewarded with jobs, you're rewarded with money, status, right? Like, that's based off of, if we really get into it, the foundation of white supremacy, right? So I argue that domestic violence is just another child of white supremacy.
Okay.
That's my argument, because white supremacy teaches us that violence works. We need to control people. We need to, subjugate people, all of that. Domestic violence is just another way. It's just the person that's closest to you, right? But also, the root causes of a lot of times is the stress of poverty, lack of education, lack of housing, all of these different issues, right, that we think is just like back burner stuff, but really it's a foundation. If you at work, right, if you're at work and you're getting cursed out by your boss constantly, right, and you're demeaned, and you go home and you feel like, dang, I'm nothing at work. How can I feel like the person at home? I'm going to argue, and I'm going to control, and I'm going to subjugate the person that I supposedly love, right? And it's rewarded to a certain extent. We don't shame abusers for being abusive, but we shame the victims for experiencing it.
Yeah, I agree on that. I was watching something earlier today that was talking about athletes that are getting into trouble, and it may be with sexual violence situations. Well, with athletes that are, sexually assaulting females. And a lot of times it is the victim that ends up carrying the brunt of that negative energy and what they're going through instead of the abuser. Right. And that's the point.
Yeah, we never ask, why does she leave, right? Yeah. I mean, we never ask, why does he stop abusing? We always ask, why doesn't she just leave? Right? But what we don't realize is it is extremely hard to leave. This is a person who has consistently, day after day, told you that you wasn't shit. You wasn't going to be shit. Nobody gave a damn about you, right? And you were nothing without them. And so constantly telling you that. Just like on the flip side, if someone's constantly telling you, I love you.
Right.
I care for you. I'm there for you. You believe that. You feel that. So it's just the same thing if someone's telling you you ain't shit.
Right.
And you ain't going to be shit.
Positive energy and negative energy.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. That's the end all be all when you start talking to us about domestic abuse or domestic relationship. We be like, well, leave.
Right.
Like, that's easier said than done.
It is. And let me tell you why it's so much harder. 99% of all abusive relationships have some form of financial abuse.
Right.
That means someone's controlling the money or someone's stopping someone from making the money. Right. And so therefore, you need money to leave. You need resources. Right. So if someone's controlling the money, how are you going to leave?
Your situation might not be set up to have access to those resources like that.
Absolutely.
That's what we say. You know, or we be like, could be me.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I was, man, I wish, or female, wouldn't be me.
Yeah.
And that's always from the outside looking in until it happens. And like she says, it's something that's gradual. Because then we always say it might be somebody who's watching the podcast or somebody who's listening in that may be going through this right now. But it seems one of the hardest decisions to make is to leave the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. You need resources.
And even sometimes, let's say you have resources. Still leaving. Still leaving that, whatever that is. There's some misinterpreted form of love in this relationship that still causes the individual to look back.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because when you do get out of it and you have a story to tell, it sounds like the Freddie and Jason and Michael Myers, it sounds like horror movies.
Right.
Like, how could you be?
Right.
But it's a process.
Yeah, it is. What's up, J.D. Houston? Thank you for tuning into the show and listening tonight, talking about domestic violence. And it goes on both sides, actually, for men and women. When you were just speaking, when you were like, I never let a man do this, I never let a woman. It happens to men, too. Men are getting physically abused as well, right?
What?
Yes.
Some women out there being aggressive?
Yes.
Not aggressive,
like
abusive.
Abusive.
Let's call it what it is, right?
Right, so aggressive and abusive is two different things.
So 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experience some form of domestic violence. And so the other part is, right, we say domestic violence and that immediately people think violence and physical, right? So sometimes I may say relationship abuse, right? You may hear intimate partner violence, dating abuse, right? Because our brains just immediately go to like physical, but it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's reproductive, it's coercive threats, it's stalking, it's all of these other things that we don't think about, right?
Right.
And so the other part about leaving is it's hard because if you don't know what a healthy relationship is, you think it's love.
Right.
You think that it's love.
Right.
And even for myself, like, I was like, well, if I try harder, that's what we tell ourselves. If we try harder, right, this person will change, this person will understand and see and value me, right? And what I always like to point out to people when they say, like, just leave. Your boyfriend and girlfriend cheated on you. Did you leave immediately? Nah, y'all be staying. Y'all be staying. Like, y'all be staying. Like, stop acting like...
It's just out the door when it's... Exactly. They be staying.
They be staying. Like, come on now. Like, it's... Come on. Numerous times.
Right.
Like, numerous times. You're like, well...
He's not going to do it again.
Right. He is, though.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Tone, what do you... You come from a situation of domestic violence in a sense of being able to see that. Well, the reason...
Hold on before you set that up.
She done disclosed you.
I just sound like I was in prison. Like I whipped somebody ass, some female, and they caught me before radio. It's like, you ain't know about this.
No, what I'm saying is you saw that firsthand as a young child between your mother and father. Am I not correct?
Yeah.
So when we're speaking of victims, it's not only sometimes the person, the actual person that's going through it. It is a trickle or a ripple effect. Yeah. And it affects the children. It could affect, you know what I mean, just the other family members. So speaking of that, and just for people who are watching, because I find that a lot of times these subjects are so taboo. You talk about it when something major has happened or something major is going on, but then when it seems like, okay, just a normal conversation, people sometimes shun away from it or they don't put it out there. Yeah. But I think that these are the kind of topics that we should talk about all the time. And for whoever may be watching or listening, just to understand different things that they can do and to know that they are not alone and to know different steps that they can take. And that's the reason why Melody is here today. But just hearing from you as someone who firsthand saw it and experienced it as a youth, did that affect you in any kind of way, or how did that affect you?
Well,
why is that so funny to you?
You sound like you're on the View.
Well, I'm just trying to make it,
And no, the thing is, I would always see, the after effects with my mom and hear about what happened. And my father he was remorseful to the point his philosophy was like, I should have never messed up with your mother. That was always his thing. And I used to tell Yolanda, my mom went to the grave still loving my father after what he did and everything. And then my mom bucked back too, because see, my mom would fight. So that ain't help, because it wouldn't just be one-sided.
So let me tell you about that, right? So this was something that came up in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, where it's called mutual abuse. There's no such thing as mutual abuse. What there is reactive abuse, right? So there's responsive abuse. That means that the abuser has constantly abused this person, and they feel like, I need to, at one point in time, fight back. It's a coping mechanism. Sometimes that coping mechanism is fighting back, right? And sometimes we assume, like, well, they were, like, family members in my family, the women, badasses, right? Like, they fought. And so it was really hard for people to understand that they were victims, right? Myself, I have this bold personality. It was exceptionally hard for people to see, like, nah.
Right.
That's not possible, right? Like, well, did you fight back? Yeah, there were times I fought back. Absolutely. And there were times where you're so tired of it, right? You just, whatever. So I want us to not assume that because a person, in particular women, are fighting back, that sometimes means that, like, it's a mutual abusive relationship. It's not. It's reactive.
Right.
It's reactive.
I agree. What's up, OGD Lee?
And
you're one of our favorites, too.
It don't take a lot.
It don't.
No, because I watched my mom and dad argue over a Christmas tree. That's when I first started not liking Christmas. I was like, damn, Christmas ain't bringing nobody together. Right? They're arguing over a real versus an artificial tree and $15. I said, okay.
The most instances of domestic violence happens around holidays. The stress of holidays, the pressure, the money, all of that. Yeah, it skyrockets.
That brings it on.
As a kid, when you see stuff like that, you compartmentalize it, and you put it away, and you'll see certain things, and it'll trigger, and you'll be like, oh man, for whatever reason. And I used to always tell Yolanda, you never have to worry about me raising my hand at you, because it's an effect of what I saw my father do. So I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? What Jay-Z said, you got 99 problems, but you got 99 problems with me putting my hands on you.
Right, and I appreciate that, because you've never done that, and for you to be in that environment, I mean, if you saw that growing up, you could easily.
You was introducing me. They was at the house like, damn, Tony put his hands on somebody.
But your mother also told you when she first met, when we first got together, what she tell you? She said, don't you ever try to put your hands on that girl.
She said you was strong.
Because she different. She's strong.
She said you was strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'll fight you back.
You don't know, man. No, you will not sit here on a domestic abuse podcast talking about you going to fight me back.
If someone tries to hurt me, then I'm going to defend myself. That's what we should do.
Okay, but
I know that you're not going to do that.
Here's
so
the
that
thing. Let me show you. I had given you
that
flowers.
Don't have nothing to do with our situation.
I had given you your flowers.
Yes,
We're getting ready to move on to something else.
You
had to get that last piece.
That last word.
Right, and
because
now
I will.
Right, and now you talking about whether somebody tried to hurt me and so, but that's deflect. on me. Like, this is who we talking about. We talking about domestic. And you just said that I haven't put my hands on. That's like an oxymoron.
No, it's not, baby. I was saying, no, you've never put your hands on me.
Right. But then you said,
but if you did, I would fight back.
But if you did, there is
so
no
that's
but
the
that comes
misconception,
after
right?
that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the misconception that when you're not in it, you assume that if it happens, you'll fight back.
Right.
But sometimes it's so damn shocking
that you don't.
Right? And you've been prepared. They've literally prepared you for the moment that they're going to lay hands on you. And by the time they prepared you for that, they've beaten you down. They've made, your self-worth is gone. Your self-esteem is gone. Yeah. And so you're like, did this really just happen?
Right.
Right? It's like, well, okay, he did this, but he didn't do that. Like, you keep pushing, that marker back. Like, he did this, but he didn't do that. Right? Or she did this and she didn't do that.
Wow. I hope somebody's recording this show. And I want you to send me that clip. I need that sound bite when she said, and I'll fight back. That's all I need. Just send me that part.
See?
Put that in the safe.
As your former publicist, I would say, you would just be careful.
I'm going to put that in the safe. You think?
Right.
Like, bring me that clip. Play this.
Remember
right
that time?
Y'all. I told you.
Yeah.
I tried to tell y'all. Y'all looking at me like that. Play the clip. Play the clip. And it is far more, I believe, than the statistics show when it comes to domestic abuse.
Because it's people who aren't speaking up.
Absolutely. There's so many people that don't speak up because we stigmatize them, right? Like, the only time it seems that people care about domestic violence is when someone is murdered. But all that time leading up to it didn't matter. And so the other part I want to add to, why doesn't she leave? The most deadliest time for a woman to leave, to get killed is after they've left. So once they leave, so when you look at these news articles, right, and you hear like this woman was murdered by her boyfriend, this woman is murdered by her husband, and I'm saying women because majority of them are women that's being murdered by partners, right, and spouses. They left. And not only have they left, they've most likely had restraining orders. They've most likely have been strangled by this person before, right? But because they're deciding to leave, that's when the violence ramps up because they're feeling like, the abuser's feeling like they're losing control. So when I left, I was stalked.
Wow.
My family was contacted repeatedly, showed up at my job, press charges, like all the things, right? Because they're losing control, right? So what do you do when you feel like you're losing control? You have to find a way. And that's when it becomes the most dangerous. So when I say women in particular need resources, safety is a big part of that, right? Restraining orders don't do much. They keep a record, but they don't do much.
I was just getting ready to say, well, then with you saying that, is there really a resource of protection for women?
Right.
Because if I leave, I may end up getting killed, and if I stay, I may end up dealing with the abuse and something happening to me. What type of resource really is there then for a woman? And I know safety, but if she left, she probably thought she was in a safe place, right?
Yeah. Sometimes they know.
Okay.
Sometimes they know. So it's a process. It takes planning, right? And you have to be so strategic, and you have to have a good support system in order to leave. Right. You have to, because if not, you're doing it out on your own, and it's just impossible, right? And so safety planning may involve changing jobs. Right. This is why I talk about. This is why my company trains companies about domestic violence, because if we're not home, we're at work. Right. So we spend so much time at work, and sometimes work is safe.
Right.
So it's safety planning. Maybe it's instead of you working 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., you're working 9 to 5, or you're changing your schedule around. Right. I had the extreme of like security guard would walk me to the school to pick up my son and walk me to the bus stop to get home. I didn't have a car at the time, y'all. But
that was
they
good.
would. I had that, right? Like I was lucky, but so many times it just takes a lot. Some people have to move out of state. So when they come to me, like I have a fund specifically for Black women experiencing financial abuse. And so when they come to me, they're like, well, I have a family member that'll take me in this state. Let's get you there.
Right.
Let's get you there.
Right.
Because when that person crosses that state to do harm, that becomes a federal crime, right? That becomes a federal crime, and that increases right now, certain states, domestic violence is just a misdemeanor.
Damn. God damn. I hope y'all were listening in tonight. Grown Man Conversations, the visual podcast, and we're talking about domestic violence, all phases of abuse, physical, mental, emotional, financial, spiritual. It's all phases of this thing. It's like an octopus.
Yeah.
With 8 arms, and each arm is a different phase of abuse, and it's all connected to the same body. I was listening to when you were talking about leaving, and I have some movie suggestions for the ladies to watch.
Oh God!
Okay. I have.
I'm probably going to critique them super heavy. But go ahead.
Based on what you were talking about, I have some.
I already know where you're going.
I have some selections.
I've probably seen all of them.
Number 1, sleeping with the enemy.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, sleeping.
Oh, Lord.
That's a classic.
The enemy. You might want to just watch it, take some of that in. Number 2, Enough.
I knew that was coming. I knew you were
with
going to say
J
that.
Lo. Enough.
That's one.
Yeah, that's one of them. Cause she
was
whipped
kicking
his
ass in that.
She was.
That's
She sure was.
another one. So you might
was.
wanna watch that one too.
Right.
And what was my third one? Oh, I had a good one too. I can't remember now. Oh, I sat right over there and memorized them. Sleeping with the enemy, enough. And never mind.
Megan Good did one. So hers too.
Which
hers
one?
was
What she
good.
did?
It
That
was
was domestic.
Yes, it was. She had to play dead. She had to kill. It was with her husband, but she had to kill herself. She had to act like she died in order to get out of her domestic violence situation. But I forgot what it was. But anyway,
because I don't know. You gotta
I
look that
don't
up,
know.
bro.
yeah, I just watched it not too long ago. She just did it this year.
So y'all don't listen to Tone, right? Because
Right.
y'all gonna be arrested, right?
Right.
Because if you look at the statistics of women that are in prison, majority of them are survivors of domestic violence.
Wow.
So don't do that.
What's wrong with my movies? I picked some good
Yeah,
movies.
I mean, definitely, I do encourage self-defense, right? Like, I do encourage
He said,
self-defense.
"Watch my
Yeah.
movies."
But
what if in that self-defense you're defending yourself, something happens to him? Then we still have to go through as women
it's possible.
being a victim of the act of domestic violence and then being a victim of trying to survive, and we had to. We need to change some laws and stuff, right? So does that go back to the laws and different things that are on the books?
I mean,
for women?
yes, but also we need to. Sometimes, most times, domestic violence is seen as we need to get the victim help, which is true. We absolutely need to get them help. We need to get them resources. We need to get them to understand that this is not love. This is not how a relationship's supposed to go. And we need to have programs consistently for perpetrators of violence, in particular men, right? So we put a lot of the weight of fixing domestic violence on the victim, when some of that weight, domestic violence will not end until abusers are held accountable. And that does not, let me be perfectly clear, that does not mean they go to jail. That's not what I mean by that. That means
they need that help.
They need help, right? They need to learn what it is to be in partnership with someone, to not control them, right? That does not mean prison, because prison doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix them. We know this already. It doesn't fix anything. So that is not what I'm saying. However, there are extreme cases where you absolutely should not be a part of society, right? You have to go, right? But for those cases where there's opportunity to do some work, and before it gets that serious, we need that. And we need to start talking about healthy relationships and abuse in elementary school, middle school, because middle school and high school see an alarming rate of dating violence, right? And so we have to start early having those conversations and telling children what to allow and what not to allow from a person they care about.
In elementary school, these kids are dating and dealing with that.
Well, middle school.
And middle school.
Elementary school. Middle and high school.
What's up?
Yeah.
That's off the hook. and then you look at what they're looking at. I mean, that's one of the influences of social media, or what they're looking at, where they're getting the information from. And so.
But still, sometimes in elementary, it may even start in
What little girl is dating? You got 2-year-old dating?
No, so even though you may not be dating, the violence or the interaction between
if
the
he
young
hits
girls,
you, he likes you.
If he hits you, oh, he just like her. He just did. Well, he
Well,
might
we
not
not
know
know
that.
that.
Yeah.
Ain't no such thing as that.
Right.
That's how we
Right.
ingrain that early. No.
Yeah, if he being mean to you and stuff, oh, he just really like you, girl. No, as a little kid. So again, in elementary school, they need to know, these little young boys need to know if they're doing that. It starts there and they understand maybe by the time they get into middle school, especially if they're not getting it at home,
Right.
they know this is
And
not something I
understanding
should be
like
doing.
emotions, right? We don't talk about emotions enough, and sometimes it's the issue is like we have all these emotions, we don't know what to do with them, so we project them on other people. We do that when we're angry sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore, if we tap into like what are healthy emotions, what to do if we're feeling negative emotions or whatever, how do we handle that? We need to have these conversations, but instead we tell especially little boys to bottle it all up. And that bottling all up is what makes it explosive.
Explode like a powder keg.
Explosive.
This is a great conversation going on. I hope you tuned in. I hope you are listening. You got your thinking caps on. And if you have any questions or you have a comment, you know how to hit us up so we can dive into it. Yolanda, as we always do around this time,
As we always
it's time to let the people know about the sponsors that's got us moving tonight. Silver Shield Security Systems, where you can still go because you're celebrating the 10-year anniversary. You can go and use my promo code, #ToneX. #ToneX and get 50% off of your regular installation fee. I'm telling you, you need to do it. But in the meantime, in between time, play that commercial.
And it's a way to keep them safe, right? We're talking about domestic violence, but it's a way to keep them safe so that way they can lock somebody out their house, call the police, or do whatever it is that they need to do. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead on to this Silver Shield Security commercial.
I have peace of mind with Silver Shield Security, which has been protecting my family and home, along with servicing the Carolinas for over a decade. Silver Shield Security knows the importance of convenience and safety. Whether you live in an apartment, a home, or run a business, they are here to protect you from unwanted intrusions and fires. You can trust Silver Shield Security to install a high-quality security system that you can access directly from your smartphone. Call now at 704-440-4688 or visit the website at www.silvershield-security.com. You can use my promo code, #ToneX, and get 1/2 off your installation price. Don't forget to ask about the new no money down options. Let Silver Shield Security help to give you peace of mind, just like me and my family, and keep your business safe. I have peace of mind with Silver Shield Security. Like that.
And just
We
like
are
that,
back.
we are back.
That's the magic of the studio here. Live, EQ Studio. Shout out to my guy, Kurt. The whole staff from top to bottom. If you're looking for a spot, do any kind of recording, music,
Production,
production, you need to come check them out. It's top quality. Ladies and gentlemen, it's top-notch quality over on this side. Make sure you go to grownfitwear.com. You see she's in that hunter green.
Yes.
I'm in the gray and white. Make sure you go check that out.
And we have some new colors that are coming for the winter.
Colors.
Colors.
Everybody
Definitely showing age.
Right.
Yeah.
You do that now. Some young kids be like, what the hell are they talking about? Damn, colors. We're sitting there talking about domestic violence, abuse, abusive relationships. One of the words you hear a lot now is toxic.
Oh, yeah.
And they're wearing it out.
Wearing it
That's
out.
toxic. It's toxic masculinity. And the relationship is toxic. She's toxic.
Yeah.
I don't even think we really know what toxic is.
Right.
So the issue with that is people don't have a broad language, right? And so they don't know how to substitute words that can mean the same thing without the extreme, right?
Right.
So Because what happens is they use these words like toxic, or another big one that they're using often is like he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist, right? And I'm like, first of all, that's a medical diagnosis. So like this is a small percentage of people that are actually narcissists. But also, what happens is you take away the true meaning for the survivor who's trying to get help when you talk about your bad boyfriend, your bad partner was toxic or a narcissist. Like, no, they're just egotistical, right? They're self-centered. Like, that's what that means. They're self-centered, right? Toxic, they got some unhealthy habits, right? Like, they don't know how to, they're mean or whatever it is, right? Like, broaden the language. Because when you don't, again, you take away the true meaning when it comes to those who are experiencing it. Someone on Instagram did a really good post about that. And I was like, yeah, please, stop using those words. I'm so sick of it.
Right. Oh, I know what my third movie was.
Oh, gosh.
What's the
It wasn't really a movie. No, it's not a violence movie.
Oh, okay. They're defending themselves.
I'm just showing a broad scope of the relationship.
Oh,
how
gosh.
it gets
I'm so nervous. What is it?
P-Valley.
Oh,
because
I've never watched
she told
it.
you about having an escape plan. You better go check out when Miss Mississippi was trying to leave that white boy. You got to watch the last 3 episodes. But she had to make that money at the re-open. But that white boy took the battery out the car, so she still couldn't leave. And her sister told her mama about the white boy, talking about she had a doctor's appointment, and he came and got the girls. That was it.
Yes.
Right now. Then they came and locked her up.
Yeah.
Oh, we came and locked her
Can't
up.
wait till the new season comes out.
Look at Mel. She's like, what the hell?
Right.
I've never seen that. I've heard great things. I've never seen it.
Forgive us for going on and put that right there.
It's a hard watch for some people because it's very, very explicit.
It's graphic.
It's very graphic.
Yeah.
But they do touch on some really, really serious situations. And I know there's a lot of people that are watching that literally can see themselves in the mirror. So for that reason, I applaud the art and the creativity of them reaching an audience that may not have necessarily had a platform to be seen in that light. But it's real. Yeah. So you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for it. So let's talk about Courageous Shift.
Yeah.
So is that what you went through? Is that a big reason of why Courageous Shift started?
It is. Well, not just myself. Honestly, it was because I started writing about my experience, and writing about it turned into like speaking about it. People wanted me to talk about it, and then survivors would come and talk to me, and so I was like, well, this is bigger than me, right? Like, and so what is it that they need? And so with Courageous Shift, we focus on 3 different areas. We focus on the workplace and like training managers and supervisors to recognize the signs, how to support survivors, employees, what to say, what not to say, right? And then resources and stuff like that. But also on a broader scope, like getting companies to have domestic violence workplace policies. Because what they don't realize is 27% of workplace violence is directly related to domestic violence. So what that means is that mass shooter that came into that apartment, he probably killed his partner first. Or he did it because his partner, or the employees got in the way. So we have to think about that, right? Like, so the workplace is again, like I said, if we're not at home, we're at work, right? You know, we're allowed to work, to be clear. And so we want to work with them so that they're prepared. And then it's a financial cost to it, too. If they can reduce that cost by having the training and offering the support to the survivors, right, then they can reduce costs. Then there's also the domestic violence sector. So what happened was when I was talking to survivors, they would talk about some of the bias that they experienced going to get support from domestic violence agencies, whether that's racial bias, socioeconomic bias, gender bias. That's a problem because we're trying to get them to safety and we're trying to get them to freedom, right? And so therefore, what I do is I go in and talk to them about their racial bias. And, right, like, you can't just have a racial equity statement. What you doing? What systems are you dismantling, right? Are you actively dismantling white supremacy? Because, again, domestic violence and white supremacy are directly related, right? So I go into that. And then on the other side, I do community work. So I do programs for survivors. I do programs for the public to educate them We have some stuff coming up now. I'm doing a mini retreat for survivors.
Excellent.
for October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we do.
Oh, so this was
all
right
that
in
stuff.
time.
Yeah, right. I know, right?
Yeah.
Word. I respect it. Thank you. And then what I did was I founded the Eva Lee Parker Fund. So the Eva Lee Parker Fund provides emergency financial support for Black women who are experiencing domestic violence. They can use that money to pay rent. They can use it to fix things. They can use it for, get into safety, right? Court costs, all of that stuff that people don't think about when you're trying to leave.
Right.
And so that's named after my grandmother, who was also a survivor.
Oh.
And so I'm really excited about that. I am fundraising, so feel free to donate.
Yeah, and tell people how they can.
Yep, so if you go to courageousshift.com/Eva Lee Parker Fund, you'll see a link to that. But yeah, so Courageous Shift is really about like these organizations, these entities having the courage to shift the narrative around domestic violence, right? So we're going to have these open conversations, right? We're going to talk about it. We're not going to shy away from it. We're going to name the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so when we do that, we are better prepared to help survivors.
Right.
And so that's ultimately my goal.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. She's doing
Round
big
of-
things over there. She's
big
got a
things.
vision.
And hard
All right.
work. And I want to ask you this because we've talked about, a lot. And for those who are just tuning in again, we're talking about domestic violence. So if you are going through that and you're looking for resources or support and help, definitely reach out to my sister, Melody Gross, at courageousshift.com. Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And you can find, different resources, or you can reach out to her and find out how you can get help. But do you ever, and this is a real question because as women, I think, and men too, but I'm speaking now for the women, we bear a lot on our shoulders, especially women who may also be the heads of their household, as well as working.
That's a nice way to put single motherhood. I love that. Heads of their household. I mean, I just filed head of household taxes.
Right.
But yes, I respect it.
Those women who are single women and they're raising children, you're the head of your household.
Right, absolutely.
So you should be respected at that title. But do you ever get tired of the work? Does it ever seem that it's overbearing? Because dealing with that and just hearing you and knowing how to, you sometimes it's like you're taking one step forward and then 4 steps back.
Absolutely.
What first do you ever get tired? And then I'm gonna ask you another question after that.
So, no, not really. Like I say that because I've had so many different careers, right? And even though this was a traumatizing, I can use that word, traumatizing experience,
Toxic,
right? What has come out of it is something just so much more powerful, right? Like my goal is to build a courageous shift so that other survivors are doing this work too, right? So I'm helping them get free, right? Because when I left, I promised myself that I was removing all oppressive systems, pardon me. And so that led me to quitting jobs. That led me to losing friendships and family and all of that because it's oppressive, right? And so it doesn't really get tiring, but also I practice really good self-care. Like, I don't play.
Well, that was going to be the twofold. What do you do to keep yourself balanced and to keep from getting tired and to stay motivated to continue to do the work?
Yeah, so I take a lot of naps, right? So, like, I like naps.
Naps is good. I like naps,
I like a good nap, right?
I
do. I like a good nap. But also, right, so I like a good nap. Sometimes, what else do I like to do? I like to go to museums. That's really fun to me. I take baths, like, every day.
Yeah.
Like, I take hot soaking baths, like, every day.
Yeah.
I journal a lot, so when I need to get it off my chest, right, I journal a lot. And I have a really good support system, Sometimes, occasionally, I like go camping too, but occasionally. But yeah, so like I'm really intentional about just like stopping. And then I also have people in my life that are like, all right,
you're doing too much.
It might be time to like slow it down and stuff. And
That's
so
good.
the work
you
is
accountable. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
I just wanted to say you're doing a wonderful job with your questions and your segs, and I am enjoying.
Thank you, because you see,
Listening
I
to
appreciate that. Boo. Look, I learned from you. Being around you, it's rubbing off a little bit.
Is that what it's doing?
It is. It's rubbing off.
All right. Why is it so hard for people to believe the man got beat up?
Yeah, because again, in society, we say like masculinity, right, is rewarded, like anger and aggression. we associate masculinity with aggressiveness, right? We associate masculinity with being violent. Unfortunately, that's just like the default that we have.
That's what the country was built on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's impossible for us to think in non-binary terms of masculinity looks different for different people. And so therefore, my identity is not tied to my femininity. My identity is not tied to my masculinity. Because when we do that, we are setting ourselves up to like be confined into like, this is what's defined as masculinity. Right? And so showing emotional vulnerability is not associated with masculinity. So if a man is saying, my partner is abusing me, we cannot believe that because you're a man. Mm-hmm. Man and masculinity are not one and the same, right? Like it's not one and the same. Mm-hmm. And so it's unfortunate because I know people who, men who have not been able to get the help mentally, emotionally because of the stigma around them being victims. And that's really unfortunate.
We do too, yes. We definitely know some men that are in relationships and they deal with that. Yeah. And it really boils down to a thing where I think sometimes they know they're being abused. They know that it's abusive behavior, but it's like you say, going back to that masculinity thing. I can't leave my wife because I'm going to look like a punk if we divorce because she was beating me up.
Well,
Right, I'm sure you can, and I can too, but
I'm not gonna look like a punk. I'm gonna look just like this. Another grown fit track suit.
Insert cue the
I'm like, bring that file over here. Bring that soundbite. I told you it's been building up.
I was asking any questions.
It's been building up. I don't know. I missed it. It's been building up. I know that.
But yeah, so that's the problem, and we don't have a lot of programs. We don't have a lot of programs for perpetrators of violence, and we don't have a lot of programs for men who are experiencing violence too. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
You can't speak up about that. And I would think this is just me, that in court it will be harder to prove that the man was a victim of domestic violence from a woman than a woman being and there's women who are perpetrators that know that and use that against them.
They use that.
Yeah, it's so, but that's why people have to be trained in this work, right? Like you can't, like even myself, I had to study this because I'm like, this is my experience, whatever. My experience is not everyone else's experience too. Right. So you have to be trained in the signs of domestic violence, right? And so you have to be trained in, like, is your person letting you speak up? Right? Is your person controlling your every movement? Right? Like, what happens if y'all have a disagreement? Right. How are y'all responding to that? Like, all of those different things. And I think a lot of times, we just go to the physical immediately. Like, immediately, we think physical. Yeah. And like you said, there's a build-up and there's signs before it even gets to a hit or a slap.
You watch domestic violence flip, too, when the cops get there. Yeah. Because 5 minutes ago, he was whipping your ass. Now, when the cop comes there and says you want to press charges and go to grab him, you done jumped on the cop. God!
What have you seen? Well, I mean, listen.
I've seen
the police aren't going to do anything.
I've seen that.
Like,
get your ass, get your ass off.
Take the case of the pastor, the one that we were just watching, the gentleman who grabbed the lady by her head, and he escorted her out the church and pulled her hair. And that situation, what's the pastor's name?
I don't know.
Well, let's not even.
It's the pastor
allegedly.
It was the pastor that was robbed.
Yeah, the pastor that was
came
robbed.
in the church and robbed, and he had all that.
In Harlem?
Yeah, all that jewelry on.
I don't want to talk about that because I don't want to claim him. Coming from Harlem, I'm not. Let's not do that.
And so a lady that got up and said something about he done grabbed her
by the neck and by the hair and escorted her out. She fell. She lost her wallet. She got roughed up and she got arrested. But they also arrested him.
Okay.
Did they?
That was the whole thing that she was speaking about. They arrested him too, and also she got arrested. But the whole point was, I forgot what it was. Yeah, they got something.
They're like,
he
what's
always
next?
got something. He need a mixtape.
They're like, what's next? They're like, what is next?
Well, we want to make sure that you give out your information again, and a lot of times, normally at the 9:50 hour or 9:50 break, we do a little segment where we talk about current events and all that kind of stuff going on.
I ain't
ask you
had
some
no more
questions.
domestic questions.
But you can have something with
They're
domestic.
deeply rooted.
Remember we talked and you said you had a question that you was going to ask her. Remember you said, I'm going to see this, I'm going to pose this. And it was about the Nia Long situation. So that's...
Yeah, I know that. That's cute.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're not talking. I'm talking. I might have another jewel.
Okay, I'm here for whatever.
What's the jewel?
Huh?
Oh, gosh.
And you better have one with all that set up.
Right, you really set it
have
out.
a
Like,
jewel.
you really set it out.
You better have something over there, sir.
Oh, gosh.
I really don't. Okay, Yolanda, I really don't have anything concrete. All right, and I know the question that you were talking about, that we were going to pose to her about Nia Long.
Yeah,
I
so
just need to know the spin.
Yeah,
to
on
put
what to do it. But give people again how if they want to, they need the resources and support of Courageous Shift, and even if people want to support what you're doing, donate to your cause. How can they do that again?
Yep. So the website is courageousshift.com, and you can find me on social media as Courageous Shift, or I am Melody Co on all platforms. So definitely reach out. And the Evilly Parker Fund, I'm pretty sure like if you Google it, it comes up now, which is great. I love that my grandmother's name.
Yes,
yeah, she's dope. Yeah. So courageousshift.com and at Courageous Shift and at I am Melody Co.
Awesome.
And fellas, if any of y'all are listening to me right now and you're getting abused in your relationship, I want you to call me. I don't have a number for you. I want you to get in contact with me, and the key word is waterfall. Okay? That's the code word to let me know that something is going on in your relationship.
Waterfall.
Okay, waterfall.
Why waterfall?
You know what, Yolanda? I knew when I said the code word was waterfall, I knew you was going to want to know why.
I was going to ask too.
And I really don't have.
Okay, all right.
You know what
that's
I mean?
cool.
I really don't have.
But that just downloaded and you
That's what came to me was waterfall. Okay? That's what came to me.
Well, man, if you're being abused, hit Tone in his DM and say waterfall. And he'll provide some help for you.
Well, we go.
See, look, what I said, if you're not ready to give out those resources,
right, then
and that support,
all
just hand them over.
You're right.
Just
send them over to
Courageous Shift.
I mean, I definitely have men who come to me, so
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't work everything out in the barbershop. Fellas.
That's right.
And ladies, you can't work everything out in the hair salon or getting your nails done.
Right.
All right. And if you're telling your situation to Lee phone, it ain't really gonna be the kind of help you need. No way. They ain't gonna be able to help you. Okay? They're not gonna be able to help you. Okay? So listen, here's the question.
Okay.
In lieu of the allegations,
I'm glad you said allegations,
against the former Boston Celtics coach, Mr. Idoka. All right. Involving allegedly some staff members. All right.
Yeah.
And the fella said, man, you had this young lady already, and you risked it all for this right here. And I told Yolanda, who is the person that you would risk it all for?
Oh, okay. Who would I risk it all for?
Who is the person that you would risk it
all
for?
The bait switch, right?
God dang. Oh, man.
Who would you be like, shit, you know what? He just had to get mad about this. We just gonna have to talk.
Come on. Right.
We just gonna have to talk about this. He's just gonna have to understand
that
shit. This is like a comet.
Oh, okay.
Once in a lifetime. I was in the room with this thing.
Oh, gosh. So.
Who would you risk it all for, ladies and gentlemen?
Who would you risk it all for?
I really gotta answer that? I gotta answer that? Okay.
You sure do.
Okay.
You don't have to answer.
I don't.
Yes,
You know,
you
it's so funny because like I did entertainment PR, so I've been around celebrities. So it's like,
Right.
whatever.
Who
Who?
would you risk it on? Who would you be like on the way home? You'd be like, look,
Look.
I'm not explaining myself about this.
Or either
They should
I'm gonna go ahead and
understand.
let you know
They should understand.
how it went down. I mean, I'm just saying I'm gonna let you know something went down because
I was
I'm.
gonna say the way you interrupted me again. I was like, so what? So
No.
what is it this time?
Oh wait, I gotta think of somebody. Okay.
You don't even
What
go in
is
there
his
interrupting.
name?
You just set it up. You said Janet Jackson came to my comedy show tonight. Then you just walk in the room.
And that's how you know.
That's it. That's how you.
That's
That's
how
it.
you
Don't
know.
even. Don't come in here asking about nothing.
Okay.
Until your Janet came to the show.
I don't really be questioned like that. But
Me either. But I'm gonna
I
tell you that
don't.
Jay-Z, I saw
Really?
her.
I got nothing.
I'm just
No.
playing. I just
I would
No,
not.
you're
I don't
not.
want that name
No,
up.
she's not.
No, the reason why I said that is financial. So that would be a financial jump. That's why I was saying, boo, look, I was getting.
But
Is
that's
it like a
what-
one night stand?
But
Is
that's
that
his
what
money
it
though.
is?
Yeah, you risk it all.
For a one night stand.
You ain't
with
gonna think
somebody.
it through.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not gonna go back to the car and be like,
An
girl, you
indecent
really know.
proposal.
You know not to even go in there. Why is you going to the after party? Then he'd be like, I'm going to the after party.
Not the man.
Oh!
Dead.
So I have a funny story
Yeah.
though. When I was younger, I was walking with my girlfriends, and this is when I had like super duper confidence. And this guy was coming out the bank, and I was like, "Hey, what's good? Like, hey, how you doing? Da, da, da. You know what I'm saying? Can I, get your name and number?" And he turned around, and it was Method Man. And I was like, "Oh my god!
Oh my god.
You know, my friends would stop like, "Oh, yeah." So
Did he give you the number?
no, he was absolutely not.
Oh.
But he looked at me like, "Oh, little girl."
Oh, okay.
METHOD, man. You got a little excited.
Yeah.
When
I like
she
Method
said
Man.
Method Man
Yeah,
too.
I
But
like
you got a
him.
little excited too.
But I'm trying to think because I really don't crush on
But it ain't
anybody.
even that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't crush on anybody like that. I'm trying to think like a select.
I don't know. Well, I don't even know if you have
Yeah,
to crush.
LeBron, maybe LeBron James. Oh,
LeBron James.
yeah, Bronny. Yeah, Savannah
Really?
might be a little hot, but I'd be like, boo, come on,
I
man,
got
Miss
nothing.
Bronny, come on now. And you're going to do just like that and be like, okay, because you love him.
Yeah, no, because you done told the world you fight back, and I'm not gonna mess with you. My mom already said you were strong, so you ain't gonna set me up. So
Right.
this LeBron, go ahead, just bring me a jersey back.
I sure will. I got
Give
you.
me at least an autographed jersey. Can I get something?
I got you.
Okay. Don't you just come in all cheesing.
I won't. I'll
Let me
come
get
in with
something.
treats. I will definitely.
Nah, I don't
come in
even
with
have
treats.
one now. I don't even want to finish
Oh
this
my
out now.
God.
Oh, you got
tried
one.
it. You
Right.
tried
You
it.
got
You tried
one.
it.
Who was yours before we wrap up?
Probably would have been Nia Long.
I said no.
Right. Not Neil.
Regina Hall.
Janet Jackson.
I said if Janet
Yeah.
came to the comedy show,
Yeah.
well, I would tell Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, because he saw that,
Janice's
he saw a
little
clip
penny.
of her when she was on the stage and she does the thing where she climbs up, she brings someone up there and she ties them. He was like, bull.
I said if she'd have called me up at that concert,
He
we'd
said,
have
"You
just
would've
been arguing
had
on the
that
way
bad,
home.
Yolanda.
You
You
just
had-
had to have been hot
At
and not
me.
saying nothing to me all the drive back to Charlotte because, Mama, I'm gone. You can't pull me back. You can't
No,
grab
oh
me.
my
I
God.
said, you ain't gonna have no, you gonna have a pair of shoes. Cause I am gone. As soon as she said you, I mean, what? I'm out of this. I mean, oh, you better be like, that's him. That's my husband.
You gotta let it go.
What? I'm gone.
You getting up there with Janet?
And she put you on that board and just oh no, I'll be looking at you though. I have my head up. You know how you be on at the doctor's
Yeah,
office.
I'm
still
gonna come and I'm gonna tip that whole
I'll be
board
looking-
and both of
Yeah, I
y'all
know.
gonna fall. Both of y'all gonna
See,
fall.
You messing the whole experience up.
I'm just
You're gonna sit there and enjoy the moment.
I am. I'm gonna enjoy
Because that's
it.
something to tell you. Be like, my husband
He
got
was-
called
yeah,
up by
well,
Janet.
You know what? You're right. It might be.
Something to
Might
tell.
be
That's
a
all it is, a little
concert.
story.
Shoot, might go viral off of that.
That's all a little story.
Mhm.
That's all a cute little story.
Yes, yes.
So I'm gonna go with Janet.
Well, tonight has been awesome. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
you and thank you for being on the show
Thank you
and
for having
sharing
me.
your experience and your knowledge. Again, everyone, please go to follow Courageous Shift on all
Courageous
platforms
Shift.
and Melody Co. And if you are going through something, make sure you go to courageousshift.com, and definitely they can help you out over there.
And one of the things I want you to understand is that laughter is still the best medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, we all need a good laugh. One of the biggest laughs we all have every year is my Born Date comedy show, which this year falls directly on my
Your
born
birthday,
date.
yeah.
Thursday, November 17th, at Stats. It is the birthday
Laugh
comedy
It Up Thursday.
show.
It's
We
gonna
got a
be
special
real
edition.
big.
You need to come through. The older I get, the more I understand how special these born date celebrations are. So go to ysprosent.com. Go to ysprosent.com. Get your tickets. Get your VIP tickets. Go ahead and get them because this is going to be epic.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to be in the building. All right. So
And with
make
that,
sure you get your tickets.
we going to say peace.
Wait
We
a
out.
minute. Wait a minute. Hold on real quick, boo.
What?
Real quick.
Okay.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night,
Wednesday.
Speakeasy Wednesday.
Speakeasy Wednesdays.
Okay.
1501 South Mint. All right. A new vibe, a new energy coming to the South End. So if you missed one of the other segments that we had, make sure that you come through and get with this segment.
Yes, we're
All
doing
right.
it once a month. Every what? Third, fourth Wednesday? Every third. But this
But
happens
one
to be
is
the
special
fourth. Yeah.
because they were doing some
There was
renovations.
construction last
So you
week.
might want to come and see
What
what
they
they
did.
do
Yeah,
to
what they
1501
changed
South.
up.
And if you want to know why me and Yolanda are talking like this,
Is why.
I don't know.
I don't know
You
either.
started, so I started.
Well, let's go.
I
Good
don't,
night.
I don't
God
like
bless.
that. No, hit the button. Hit the button.
We'll see you next week.
We like
Same
Ike and
time,
Tim.
same place. That's right. Peace.
You We riding on some grown man knees. We step into some grown man knees. Conversation on some grown man knees. Put your hands up on some grown man knees. We puffing on some grown man knees. We sipping on some grown man knees. We vibing on some grown man knees. We loving on some grown man knees. I know, you know that you're down with